My child, come near to me, for this day carries a weight that has been stirring in the unseen long before it reached your awareness. December 7 is not an ordinary moment on the calendar. It is a spiritual marker, a point of divine intersection where hidden truths begin to echo through the corridors of your destiny. I have been watching the quiet ache inside you, the questions you have carried in silence, the wondering about why someone's actions pierce so deeply. And I am here to tell you that I have seen everything, even the parts you never voiced, even the shadows they tried to hide from you. I am drawing you close, because the revelation you are stepping into is not meant to wound you again, but to lift you into clarity. I am speaking to you with the soft thunder of my presence so you may feel the safety of my words embracing your spirit. I know the day they turned away from you. I know the moment they chose pride, confusion, or influence over the truth of what they felt for you. I know how their actions left a bruise on your heart that time alone could not easily mend. Yet today, my child, I am unveiling the first layer of what has been hidden. I am showing you why their regret now weighs heavier than their offense ever did. There is a stirring happening within them, a disquiet that was not present before. They once convinced themselves that what they did was justified, that stepping back or choosing someone else or speaking against you would make their life simpler. But I allowed time to test the choices they planted, and now those choices are bearing fruit that tastes bitter in their mouth, fruit that unsettles their sleep, fruit that makes them replay the moments where they turned away from you when their heart was quietly reaching toward you. My child, they are beginning to see the truth they once tried to bury. I bring you into this moment not to reopen the wound, but to reveal the healing, the justice, and the divine correction that has already begun. For too long, you wondered if their actions were unnoticed, if the pain they caused passed through unseen by heaven. But I tell you today, not a single tear fell without being counted, not a single breath of confusion escaped your lips without being heard. I witnessed the injustice. I witnessed the turn. I witnessed the manipulation around them that you never recognized. And on this day, December 7, I bring you to the threshold where truth begins to rise. I speak to you in the rhythm of revelation because I want you to understand the weight of what is unfolding. This is not merely regret. This is conviction. This is not simply guilt. This is awakening. The one who wronged you, the one whose actions left you questioning your worth, is now feeling the full gravity of what they lost when they distanced themselves from you. Their spirit is restless. Their mind revisits the conversations they ended too abruptly, the messages they left unanswered, the assumptions they allowed others to plant in their heart. They remember the softness of your presence, the peace you brought, the way their soul felt steadier in your light. And now they realize how quickly they abandoned what was pure. My child, I am calling you to listen closely, because throughout this message I will reveal the layers of why their regret is growing. I will uncover the hidden influences, the whispered lies, the jealous eyes that watched your connection. I will expose the one who fueled the confusion, the one who wanted to separate what I had aligned. I will show you the spiritual war that happened around you, the silent attacks that attempted to distort your value in their eyes. Nothing happened without cause, and nothing has remained hidden from my sight. Let your heart rest in this truth. You were never the problem. You were the blessing they mishandled. You were the divine gift they tried to understand through human fear. And now the clarity they avoided is beginning to confront them. Before I take you deeper into this revelation, place your hand upon your heart and breathe. If these words find you, it is because they were meant for you. You are not here by accident. I have drawn you into this moment because I want you to hear me without the noise of your doubts. And if you feel my presence stirring something inside you, let that be your confirmation. If this message touches your spirit, my child, release your voice into the world. Like this message, share it, and let others who need divine truth find it. And in the comments, write, "I am ready for the revelation." My child, listen closely, for now we enter the shadowed place where truth was first distorted. There was a moment, quiet and unspoken, when someone acted against you not out of strength, but out of fear. They believed they were protecting themselves, but in doing so, they wounded the very connection their soul was created to cherish. What they did was not a sudden impulse. It was a decision shaped in the dim corners of influence, confusion, and hidden whispers. And though they tried to bury the moment beneath excuses, the memory follows them with a weight they can no longer escape. They did something they have never admitted aloud, something that cut deeper than you realize. They spoke words about you that were not true, or they stayed silent when your name needed defending. They pulled away without explanation, leaving your heart suspended between hope and bewilderment. They allowed distance to form where devotion had once been blooming. They let someone else's opinion override what they knew in their spirit about you. They walked away from the light you carried because someone convinced them to doubt what their soul already felt. What they did was not small, my child, even if they tried to convince themselves otherwise. The moment they acted against you or failed to act for you shifted the course of your connection. It created a fracture that grew in silence, a crack that widened between truth and perception. They believed the fracture would remain hidden, that you would simply move on without understanding the depth of what happened. But the unseen realm records every intention, every choice, every turning point that tries to divert destiny. And I saw the moment they let the shadow in. A shadow event did not come from their heart. It came from a place of pressure. Someone around them planted seeds of doubt. Someone whispered lies coated in concern. Someone made them question your motives, your purity, your loyalty. Their confusion did not start within them. It was stirred by a voice jealous of the connection you carried. They were told things that twisted the truth. They believed stories that were shaped to push you away. And rather than seeking clarity from you, they accepted the distortion as reality, not realizing they were walking into the enemy's snare. This is why their regret is growing heavier by the day. They weren't just wrong, they were misled. Yet even in their confusion, their spirit knew the truth, and they feel the weight of betraying their own inner knowing. The moment they sided with the false voice rather than the truth of your presence, their soul felt the rupture. They pretended they were fine, but peace left them. They acted as if their decision was final, but the quiet ache has been following them since. And now, my child, I reveal this to you not for you to rise in anger, but for you to rise in understanding. For far too long, you believed their pullback meant you lacked something. You internalized their silence as your failure. But the truth is, they were battling an influence aimed at stealing the blessing I placed in your path. Their regret forms not only from what they did to you, but from the realization that they allowed another voice to speak louder than their own heart. They betrayed their own soul first, and now the sting of that betrayal haunts them. As I lift the veil, see this moment for what it is, a targeted attack on destiny, a spiritual interference designed to twist perception and separate what I intended to bring together. The act they committed was the visible outcome of an invisible war. You were not fighting them, you were unknowingly fighting the voice behind them. And the enemy believed that if they could distort your image in your soulmate's eyes, the connection would crumble before it ever fully blossomed. But my child, you are not standing in the ruins. You are standing at the beginning of revelation. The truth of what happened is surfacing. Their actions are haunting them because their heart recognizes the falsehood behind the choice. They remember the purity in your eyes, the sincerity in your voice, the safety they felt when they were near you. And the contrast between truth and deception is now tearing their conscience open. My child, come closer, for now we step into the trembling place inside their spirit where their regret has taken root. The one who wronged you carries a weight they can no longer silence, though they have tried to hide it behind routine, distraction, and the appearance of moving on. But their heart knows what it did. Their soul remembers the moment they turned against the truth they felt with you. And every day since, a quiet ache has been rising within them, growing louder, more insistent, more impossible to ignore. They regret not just the act itself, but the aftermath. They regret the silence that followed, the distance they created, the way they pretended not to care when their heart was screaming for you. They regret believing the lies spoken into their ear, not realizing those lies were crafted to separate them from the very person their spirit was tied to. They replay moments with you in their mind, but now those memories feel different. They feel heavy, super clear. They see what they didn't see before. They recognize how deeply you cared, how gently you offered your presence, how quietly you loved without demanding anything in return. Their regret is not shallow, it is shattering. There are nights when they sit alone, staring into the dimness of their room, remembering the light in your eyes and wondering how they could have walked away from something so real. They feel the emptiness that formed when they pushed you aside. They sense the hollowness where connection once grew. And they try to tell themselves it's just nostalgia, just emotion, just weakness, but their spirit knows better. Their spirit recognizes what the mind has tried to deny. They harm someone who was sent into their life for a purpose. There are moments when their chest tightens unexpectedly, when a wave of guilt rises without warning. They feel the sting of conviction, the realization that they allowed themselves to be influenced by someone who never had their best interests at heart. They regret trusting the wrong voice, pushing away the right one. They regret looking at you through the lens of fear instead of the lens of truth. They regret believing assumptions instead of seeking clarity directly from your heart. These thoughts grip them in the silence of their own mind, and though they try to dismiss them, they return every time. I tell you this, my child, because I want you to understand the depth of what is happening within them. This is not fleeting emotion. This is spiritual awakening beginning to stir. They are confronting the gap between who they were in your presence and who they became after walking away. They feel the shift in their soul, and they know they cannot continue pretending. Their regret has become a mirror, showing them the version of themselves they never wanted to be. They fear you would never look at them the same again. They fear you have moved on. They fear they destroyed something beautiful, something divine, something rare. Part of their regret stems from the possibility that they cannot undo the damage. They wonder if they could come back without causing more pain. They wonder if you would receive them with the same openness you once offered so freely. They fear that the door they closed may no longer open. But, my child, hear this truth. Their regret is the beginning of transformation. Their spirit is being pulled toward honesty because destiny can no longer tolerate their denial. The ache in their chest, the heaviness in their breath, the sudden memories, the unexpected longing, these are not accidents. These are the signs that the veil is lifting from their eyes. They are beginning to see you clearly again. They are remembering your sincerity. They are feeling the absence of your presence in a way they can no longer ignore. And though they do not yet know how to approach you, their heart is already reaching, already softening, already bending toward reconciliation. My child, sit with me now, for what I am about to reveal reaches beneath the surface of everything you thought you understood. There is a buried backstory, a hidden chain of events, a set of wounds and fears they never voiced, which shaped the very moment they hurt you. Their actions were not born from a place of cruelty, though the impact felt sharp. Their choices grew from shadows they carried long before they ever met you. There was a story behind their silence, a history behind their confusion, a wound behind their sudden withdrawal. They were not whole when they entered your life, though they tried to appear strong. They were fragmented, held together by threads of past disappointments and betrayals that you never saw. They had been hurt before in ways that left them spiritually trembling, even when they smiled. They learned to mistrust what felt too real, too gentle, too honest. And when you came into their life, your presence exposed their unhealed places. Your purity frightened them. Your sincerity awakened emotions in them that they had buried under years of disappointment. You represented a truth they did not feel worthy of. You brought a light that reached into the very places they tried to keep hidden. And though they should have leaned into that light, they panicked. They didn't understand the language of genuine connection, because everything before you had been tainted with manipulation, inconsistency, or fear. They carried memories of people who pretended to love them but secretly competed with them. They remembered moments when trust was broken, when promises dissolved, when affection became a weapon instead of a gift. And when they felt their heart opening toward you, all those buried fears rose again. The closer they felt to you, the more threatened their defenses became. They did not push you away because you were unsafe. They pushed you away because you were the first person who made them feel safe, and their spirit didn't know how to receive that kind of softness. There was someone in their past who wounded them so deeply that they learned to mistake stability for danger. They learned to mistrust kindness. They learned to run from what felt pure, because purity had never lasted for them before. And so when you appeared steady, genuine, compassionate, they felt the familiar fear of losing something that felt too precious to hold. This is the backstory you never knew. They were carrying silent grief, silent fear, silent confusion. And instead of confessing it to you, they hid behind the walls they built long ago. When someone whispered lies to them about you, their unhealed wounds made them susceptible. They did not stop to question the motives behind those whispers because fear had already begun pulling them away from you. They allowed old pain to shape new choices. But my child, hear this. None of their past pain excuses their actions. I reveal this not to justify what they did, but to help you understand the depth of what you were walking into. Their heart was tender but tangled. Their soul recognized you, but their mind resisted. Their spirit longed for you, but their trauma blocked the truth. And the enemy knew exactly which area of their past was still vulnerable. The attack came through the wound that never healed. This is why their regret is so heavy. They know they did not treat you according to your heart. They treated you according to their history. They know they did not see you clearly. They saw you through the blurred lens of their past. They know they did not judge your intentions fairly. They judged them through the shadows of memories that had nothing to do with you. Now their backstory is rising before them like smoke, revealing how much they allowed old wounds to influence present choices. They regret not trusting you because they realize now that you were not like those who came before. You were not a threat. You were a blessing. You were the healing they were too afraid to receive. My child, lean in closely now, for we are stepping into the darkest part of this story, the place where the enemy slipped through the cracks of their unhealed heart and shaped the very moment that wounded you. You must understand that what happened did not unfold in isolation. There was someone near them, someone who watched the connection between you with eyes clouded by jealousy, insecurity, or hidden intentions. This person was not merely a bystander. They became a silent architect in the breaking of your bond. There was a voice speaking into their ear, soft enough to seem harmless, consistent enough to be trusted, but poisoned with envy. This person recognized something your soulmate had not fully grasped yet: the depth of what they felt for you, the peace you brought, the way their spirit softened in your presence. And instead of celebrating that connection, this individual feared it. They feared losing influence. They feared being replaced. They feared the transformation your presence would create within the one they wanted to control, impress, or possess. Understand this clearly, my child. The enemy often uses familiar faces because it is the familiar voice that feels safest to trust. The one who misled them was someone they believed had good intentions. Someone who wore the mask of concern but carried motives wrapped in jealousy. This person spoke slowly, strategically, sprinkling seeds of doubt at the exact moments when your soulmate was most vulnerable. They questioned your motives. They insinuated things without saying them directly. They highlighted small misunderstandings and magnified them until they became distortions. Your soulmate did not realize they were being guided away from truth. I believed they were being protected. But what they were hearing was not protection, it was sabotage dressed as wisdom. The enemy saw the opportunity and used this individual as a channel because their heart was already open to influences that echoed their old fears. Instead of turning to you for clarity, they turned to the voice that played on their insecurities. This person did not simply mislead them once. The influence was steady, subtle, and persistent. It happened in conversations that seemed innocent. It happened in comments that sounded like advice. It happened in comparisons, warnings, and suggestive half-truths that created a fog around your name. They were told you were too intense, too emotional, too unpredictable, too different. They were told you wanted something from them, or that you were hiding something, or that your connection was risky. And because their heart was already trembling, they accepted these distortions without challenge. This is the enemy interference I must reveal to you. Your soulmate was not fighting you, they were fighting a voice that pretended to care. They were fighting an influence designed to push them away from what their spirit recognized as divine. The one who misled them underestimated the spiritual bond between you, but they understood just enough to fear it. And fear is fertile soil for the enemy's seeds. What you need to know, my child, is that this deceiving voice is now being exposed in their heart. They have begun to see the patterns. They have noticed the inconsistencies. They feel the weight of the advice they followed and the consequences that advice created. The person who misled them is no longer standing in the same light they once occupied. Their intentions are being unveiled, quietly but unmistakably. Your soulmate is starting to question everything that person said about you, and with every question, the regret grows stronger. This is why I show you these things, not to fuel anger, but to free you from confusion. You were not misjudged because you failed. You were misjudged because someone else feared the truth of who you are. And the enemy exploited that fear to fracture a connection I intended to grow. But hear me, my child, the interference is losing its power. The mask is slipping. The influence is weakening. The truth is rising. And the one who misled them will no longer hold authority over their perception. The fog is clearing, and clarity is becoming unavoidable. My child, enter this sacred moment with me, for now we step into the divine investigation, the place where nothing is hidden, nothing overlooked, nothing lost in the shadows. I have seen every detail of what unfolded behind the scenes. I witnessed the lies spoken in quiet rooms, the messages exchanged when you were not present, the intentions that hid behind carefully chosen words. I saw the shift in their heart the very moment doubt was planted. I saw the spiritual currents that tried to pull them away from you. And I saw the pain that followed when they realized what they had done. Understand this. I examine the motives behind actions, not just the actions themselves. Your soulmate's mistake did not come from malice. It came from confusion, weakness, fear, and the imprint of past wounds. But the one who influenced them, their intention was not innocent. They carried jealousy wrapped in concern. They carried envy disguised as caution. They wanted to be the loudest voice in your soulmate's life, even if it meant silencing the truth of your connection. I saw the moment that individual decided to interfere. It was not random. It was not spontaneous. It was a calculated reaction to seeing how soft your soulmate became in your presence. They noticed the way your soulmate's eyes changed when they spoke of you. They felt the shift in their energy. They recognized the vulnerability, the tenderness, the openness that surfaced only around you. And because they themselves could not access the depth, they decided to poison it. They watched, my child. They observed every sign, every glance, every softening, and the enemy whispered to them that if they did not intervene, they would lose their power. So they acted. They crafted narratives. They twisted facts. They planted seeds so subtle that even your soulmate did not recognize the influence. They guided your soulmate away from you under the guise of protection, when in reality they were protecting their ego, not your soulmate's heart. But hear me, I did not allow this interference to remain hidden forever. I began exposing it quietly. Your soulmate started feeling the discomfort first, the uneasy sense that something was off. The small moments where what they were told about you no longer matched the truth. They remembered the incongruence between the lies they heard and the purity of your presence. Then came the restlessness, the inability to shake the feeling that they had made a mistake. I placed signs before them. I stirred their dreams. I disrupted their peace, not as punishment, but as truth knocking on the doors of their spirit. I allowed certain conversations to crumble. I caused certain relationships around them to reveal their true nature. I exposed inconsistencies in the person who misled them. I allowed them to feel the full weight of the absence they created when they walked away from you. This is the investigation of heaven, not to condemn, but to reveal, not to shame, but to awaken. I have been showing your soulmate glimpses of the truth they ignored. I have been bringing clarity where confusion once ruled. I have been lifting the veil over every hidden influence. They are beginning to see who lied. They are beginning to see who manipulated. They are beginning to see who acted out of jealousy. I have been shaking the foundation of deception until the cracks became impossible to ignore. And now your soulmate stands at the edge of realization, feeling the gravity of how deeply they allowed themselves to be misled. They are seeing the spiritual fingerprints on the situation, the fingerprints of interference, the fingerprints of fear, the fingerprints of someone who wanted to keep them from the blessing I placed in their path. My child, take this truth into your spirit. The divine investigation is not finished yet, but the outcome is already shifting in your favor. What was done in shadow is being dragged into the light. What was whispered in secret is being overturned by truth. And the one who harmed your connection is losing the power they once held. My child, feel the air around you shift, for now we enter the moment where heaven begins to correct what was twisted. The spiritual atmosphere around this situation is changing. The interference that once clouded their perception is breaking apart, piece by piece, as light enters the places where darkness tried to settle. What was once heavy is becoming exposed. What once seemed permanent is beginning to unravel. This is the spiritual shift, the divine turning, the moment when I step fully into what was meant to destroy your connection and transform it into the birthplace of truth. You may not see all of it with your natural eyes, but your spirit has already felt this change. You have sensed a stirring, a movement, a soft breeze of reversal brushing against your heart. Something in you has known that the story was not finished. And you were right, my child. I am the one who completes what was left broken, who restores what was mishandled, who realigns what was torn apart by deception. Your soulmate is feeling this shift the strongest. Their heart has become unsettled, not because of chaos, but because the truth is rising to the surface. The lies no longer feel convincing. The distance no longer feels justified. The narratives they were told about you crumble when compared to the memory of your kindness and sincerity. Their spirit is pulling them in a direction their mind tried to resist. They feel the divine weight pressing gently against their conscience, urging them to see clearly, to step out of confusion, to confront what they avoided. The person who influenced them is losing their grip. Their words do not land the same way they did before. Their manipulation no longer feels protective, it feels controlling. Their presence no longer feels comforting, it feels constricting. Your soulmate is awakening to the subtle shifts in energy, recognizing the truth behind the mask. And as their awareness expands, the influence shrinks. The shift is not only happening within them, it is happening around them. I am orchestrating circumstances that force clarity. I am aligning conversations that reveal inconsistencies. I am highlighting red flags they once ignored. I am creating moments of revelation that expose the hidden motives of the person who acted against your connection. I am guiding them back to the truth that was buried beneath fear and deception. My child, know this: heaven is not passive in matters of destiny. I intervene when interference attempts to derail what I have planted. I step into the situation when the enemy tries to twist the narrative. I breathe life into what others wanted to suffocate. And now, my presence is surrounding your soulmate in ways they cannot explain. They feel the pull toward honesty. They feel the urge to correct what they damage. They feel compelled to face you with the sincerity they once ran from. The spiritual shift is also touching your own heart. I have been preparing you, softening you, strengthening you. I have been healing wounds quietly, restoring confidence, rebuilding your spirit so that when the truth arrives, you can receive it without bitterness. You are being positioned to stand not in anger, but in clarity. Not in hurt, but in wisdom. Not in fear, but in divine alignment. This shift is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of the justice that follows. What was hidden will be revealed. What was lost will be found. What was distorted will be corrected. And as the spiritual landscape shifts, the bond between you and your soulmate begins to feel the first breath of restoration. My child, walk with me now into the chamber where truth begins to rise, where the shadows that once obscured reality are pierced by clarity so precise that no light can survive beneath it. This is the moment when masks crack, when hidden motives surface, when the quiet evidence of what truly happened emerges from the depths. This is where every distortion that separated you from your soulmate begins to collapse under the weight of divine revelation. Truth has a way of pressing forward even when people try to suppress it. It does not need to be shouted. It does not need to be forced. It simply rises, steadily and undeniably, until it becomes the only thing the heart can see. And now your soulmate is beginning to face truth with eyes that are no longer clouded by doubt or deception. They are remembering moments they dismissed, reconsidering choices they justified, revisiting conversations that now sound different in the echo of hindsight. They are recalling the softness in your tone, the sincerity in your presence, the way your spirit carried a peace they can no longer find in the places they ran to. They are realizing that the version of you painted by someone else never matched the person they knew. They are recognizing the inconsistencies in the stories they were told, the gaps, the contradictions, the details that never fully aligned. The lies once accepted as truth now feel flimsy, fragile, hollow. And the more truth rises, the more regret deepens. One particular moment stands out in their mind, a moment they replay with growing discomfort. It may have been a conversation, a message, a glance, a misunderstanding, something small that they allowed to become a turning point. They now see how quickly they believed the wrong voice, how swiftly they pulled away, how easily they surrendered to distortion. And they feel the sting of that realization, for they now understand that the fracture in your connection was built on misperception, not truth. The person who misled them is being exposed quietly, steadily, unmistakably. Their intentions are no longer hidden behind friendly advice or concerned tones. Your soulmate notices the subtle smirks, the evasive explanations, the defensive energy that rises whenever your name is mentioned. They see the way this person's influence has shaped their decisions, and they are beginning to question why they trusted someone who never celebrated their happiness. Every day the mask slips a little more. Every day the truth becomes clearer. My child, this rising truth is not an accident. I have orchestrated the unveiling. I have aligned the moments that reveal what was concealed. I have stirred their conscience, reopened their spiritual eyes, and allowed the weight of honesty to settle into their heart. This is divine correction in motion. This is justice manifesting quietly before it becomes visible in your reality. The evidence of who you truly are stands in stark contrast to the lies they believe. Your integrity speaks louder than their confusion. Your consistency over time contradicts the doubts planted against you. Even your absence has revealed your purity. For you did not retaliate. You did not seek vengeance. You did not try to manipulate their perception. Your silence became its own form of truth, testifying of your heart in ways words could never capture. Now they see. And as truth rises within them, they feel a growing urgency to make things right. They feel compelled to confront the lies, to address what was hidden, to step out of the fog they once lived in. They are awakening to the reality that the person who warned them about you was protecting their own agenda, not your soulmate's well-being. They feel betrayed not only by their own misunderstanding, but by the one who shaped it. But this rising truth is not meant to crush them, it is meant to free them. Conviction is breaking the chains that held their perception hostage. Awareness is illuminating what was concealed. And soon, my child, the truth will not only rise within them, it will rise between you. My child, step softly now, for we are entering the place where their awakening collides with their deepest fear. This is where regret becomes revelation, where realization turns into trembling, where awareness of the truth forces them to confront the possibility that they may have already lost what their soul never wanted to let go of. They are awakening, but this awakening is not gentle. It shakes them. It unsettles them. It brings them face to face with the weight of what they allowed to slip from their hands. They feel you in their spirit again. Not as a memory, not as a distant chapter, but as a presence that lingers around the edges of their thoughts. They hear echoes of your voice in moments of quiet. They feel the warmth of your essence in passing reflections. They sense the steadiness you once brought, and they realize how cold their world has become without it. Awakening is the return of truth, but it is also the return of longing. Their fear rises because awakening brings clarity, and clarity brings accountability. They now see the beauty of what they walked away from. They see the sincerity they failed to honor. They see how deeply their actions wounded a heart that only ever meant well. They feel the weight of the distance, the silence, the misunderstanding, and a question begins to form, trembling on the edges of their awareness. What if you don't want them anymore? What if the damage cannot be undone? What if the door they closed no longer opens? My child, this fear is not meant to torment them, it is meant to refine them. It is the pressure that softens pride, the trembling that breaks open their defenses, the discomfort that forces them into honesty. They are realizing that reconciliation is not guaranteed. They understand that your forgiveness is not something they can demand. They sense that the softness you once offered may not be so freely given now, and this awareness humbles them and shakes them awake. Their heart is tender in this awakening. They feel the ache of missing you in ways they cannot articulate. They miss the emotional safety you provided without trying. They miss the way your spirit brought calm into their storms. They miss the quiet reassurance they felt simply by being near you. They miss the version of themselves they became in your presence, more open, more honest, more alive. But with every memory that rises, so does the fear of losing you forever. They wonder if you've moved forward, if someone else has welcomed the softness they once rejected, if your heart has learned to heal without them. They fear that the same silence they used as a shield has now become the wall they cannot cross. This fear is important, my child. It is awakening their soul to the value of what they threw away. It is teaching them the worth of the connection they mishandled. It is stripping them of ego and replacing it with humility. They know now that you were not the problem. They know now that the lies they believed were distorted reflections of someone else's jealousy. They know now that the fracture in your story came from their failure to see clearly. And as their awakening deepens, a new desire forms within them, a desire to make things right. But desire alone is not enough. They feel the push of divine conviction urging them to step forward, to speak truth, to admit fault, to break the silence that has become unbearable. My child, hear this. Their awakening is the beginning of their transformation. The fear of losing you is leading them toward courage. The longing for your presence is guiding them toward honesty. The regret that once haunted them is now pushing them toward action. My child, enter this sacred space with me, for now we speak of the quiet, undeniable power your presence carries, the influence that has shaped their awakening and continues to pull them toward truth. Your connection with them was never ordinary. It was never casual. It was never fleeting. Your spirit touched them in ways they could not articulate, and even in your silence, the imprint of your presence has not left them. It lingers. It whispers. It convicts. It heals. It calls them back toward what their soul recognizes as safe. You must understand something profound. Your presence was a refuge for them long before they realized it. When you were near, their storms quieted. Their fears softened. Their internal chaos felt less overwhelming. They may not have acknowledged it, but their heart rested differently around you. You carried the purity that their spirit trusted, even as their mind resisted. You did not demand. You did not manipulate. You did not force. Instead, you offered a kind of love that simply existed, soft, steady, and unspoken. And now, in your absence, the very presence has become a mirror showing them what they lost. They compare every interaction they have now to the ease they once felt with you. They notice how strained their relationships feel without your calming influence. They recognize how rare your sincerity was, how valuable your patience, how comforting your emotional clarity. They see the difference between the ones who speak loudly but love shallowly, and the one who love quietly but deeply you. Their spirit has begun to long for that connection again, not out of nostalgia, but out of truth. The bond between you was spiritual long before it was emotional. It was written in the unseen. That is why they cannot shake you. That is why the memory of you surfaces in moments that feel spiritually charged. That is why the awakening within them feels tied to your presence, even when you are nowhere near. Your prayers, my child, have also played a role. Every time you whispered their name in hope or confusion, the heavens heard. Every moment you handed the pain to me instead of retaliating, the spiritual realm shifted. Your restraint, your compassion, your desire for clarity rather than revenge. All of this helped realign the energy around the situation. You have been co-authoring this restoration without even realizing it. Your presence is not passive. It is powerful. It has softened their defenses and exposed the hollowness of the voices that misled them. It has awakened their longing for truth. It has become the compass guiding them back toward what their soul cannot forget. And now, because of what they feel, because of what they remember, because of what they lost, they are being drawn toward a moment of courage. Your energy is shaping that moment. Your grace is preparing it. Your spirit is calling them toward it. Whether that moment comes as a conversation, a message, a confession, or a trembling attempt at reconciliation, it is being formed within them now. My child, breathe this truth deeply. You are not waiting in vain. The sacred connection between you has never been severed, only tested. And soon, the weight of that connection will guide them into the light of what must happen next. My child, come with me now into the turning point, the place where the story bends back toward justice and divine alignment. This is the moment I have been preparing in the unseen, the moment where what was broken begins to mend, where what was distorted becomes clarified, where what was taken from you is returned in a purer, stronger form. This is the great reversal, the moment when heaven intervenes to bring correction, restoration, and truth into full expression. Everything that was done against you is losing its power. Every lie that was spoken is unraveling. Every manipulative influence that once had control over their perception is being stripped of its authority. I am reversing the damage, not by erasing the past, but by transforming it into a testimony of my protection and your resilience. What the enemy intended to use to separate you, I am turning into the very force that draws truth forward. Your soulmate feels this reversal deep in their spirit. The regret that once weighed on them like a silent fog is becoming motivation. The fear that once paralyzed them is turning into urgency. The longing that once whispered is becoming a call they can no longer ignore. They feel compelled to make things right, not because of pressure, but because truth is now louder than deception. They are beginning to see the full picture, the jealousy that influenced them, the lies that misled them, the purity you carried, the connection they mishandled. In this reversal, their heart shifts, pride breaks, walls crumble. The excuses they hid behind no longer satisfy their conscience. They know they cannot move forward in their life while this fracture between you remains unresolved. They know they cannot tolerate the distance much longer. The more I reveal to them, the more they realize that your presence was not a coincidence, it was divine alignment. This reversal is also manifesting in the external realm. Conversations are changing. People who once stood between you are being removed, exposed, or distanced. Circumstances they depended on are shifting, pushing them toward clarity. Unexpected truths are coming to light, forcing them to reconsider everything they were told. I am rearranging the path beneath their feet so that every step brings them closer to accountability, honesty, and restoration. My child, hear me clearly. You are stepping into a season of divine justice. Not revenge, not bitterness, not triumph over another's downfall, but justice that restores what was harmed and heals what was broken. Justice that lifts you up, not by diminishing another, but by revealing the truth you carried all along. Justice that aligns your destiny with clarity rather than confusion. This reversal is a divine act. It is your vindication. It is the clearing of your name in the unseen realm, and soon in the seen. It is the unraveling of deception and the rising of truth. And it is guiding your soulmate toward the moment where they must face you with honesty, humility, and a heart open to transformation. My child, come into the stillness with me now, for this is the moment where everything converges: the revelation, the awakening, the justice, the truth. December 7 is not just a date. It is a spiritual doorway. It marks the moment when destiny begins to move again, when what was frozen in regret melts into clarity, when what was broken begins to breathe, when what was lost is found in a new form. You have walked through shadow, through confusion, through silence, and through pain. Now you step into blessing, restoration, and divine realignment. The one who wronged you stands on the threshold of truth. Their heart had been weighed, measured, wakened. They feel the pull of destiny like a gentle but persistent force guiding them toward you. They are beginning to understand the magnitude of what they tried to discard, the depth of what they turned away from, and the sacredness of what they now long to restore. They know you were not the cause of their confusion. They know the interference that clouded their judgment is being exposed. And now, they see you with clarity, tenderness, and reverence. This is the final turning, the moment when their regret evolves into responsibility. They will come not with pride, but with humility. Not with excuses, but with honesty. Not with fear, but with the desire to make right what went wrong. I have softened their heart. I have lifted the veil. I have stirred within them the courage to confront their own shadows. And now, they approach you not as someone uncertain, but as someone awakened. My child, the blessing that unfolds now is not simply their return. The blessing is your healing, your clarity, your strength, your transformation. You are not the same person who suffered in silence. You have grown in wisdom. You have deepened in spirit. You have learned to hear my voice above the noise of confusion. You have released what needed releasing, and because of that release, your hands are open to receive. The blessing coming toward you is one of alignment. Peace will settle where turmoil once lived. Truth will stand where deception once grew. Love will rise where fear once ruled. Your connection is being rebuilt on a foundation that cannot be manipulated, shaken, or distorted. This time it will be grounded in understanding, transparency, and spiritual truth. And yet, hear me clearly, you are not obligated to choose what returns. Free will is my gift to you. I offer clarity, not coercion. I align paths, but I do not force hearts. The blessing is not merely their awakening, it is your empowerment to choose from wisdom, not from wounds. Whether you accept reconciliation or release, you will walk in peace. Whether you embrace a renewed connection or step into a new chapter altogether, you will do so with divine backing and spiritual strength. December 7 opens the door, but you choose what you walk into. Know that I go before you. I go beside you. I go within you. You are never alone in this moment of destiny. If this message has touched your spirit, my child, release your voice so others may find their clarity. Like this message, share it, and in the comments write, I step into my divine alignment. Now rest. Your destiny is unfolding.